going to make a clay shark. So I've got earthenware clay here, and I've just got a lump plenty big enough. I'm going to take some of that off actually. It's very uneven, so to even it out, I just take it in my palms and roll it around and around, kind of softening it. I'm not being rough with it. I'm just rolling it until those creases and bumps even out and smooth in. Now I'm going to get this carrot shape. If you can see the curved carrot shape here, I'm going to go back and forth between my palms. The bottom of my palms are closer together, and that tapers it, and that would be where the tail is. And then I'm going to even it out a little bit while I go back and forth, and then just caress and shape the head. A shark's face is kind of squarish, I would say, just at the snout. So I'm going to narrow this out a little bit. They just have such a menacing look to them with how rigid and sharp this is. So I'm going to try to replicate that. There, just by tapering with my fingers. You see how it's a little more squared off? All right, so then, now I know that this is, by feeling it, I can feel that it's thick, it's a little heavy. I don't want it to blow up in my kiln. So before I go too far on this one, I'm going to take a tool, stick it up inside, and wiggle it around in there, and that'll hollow out the inside and keep it from blowing up in the kiln. If you leave clay too thick, there could be air pockets trapped inside, and when they get heated in the kiln, they expand and blow the clay apart and cause a big mess and destroy the product. So I just hollowed it out, and now I know that this isn't going to blow up. If you're using air dry clay, you don't have to hollow it out at all. All right, so we're going to curve it a little bit and just kind of duplicate this guy's look. So it's kind of weird. My instinct would be to make the mouth up here, but a shark's mouth is down kind of low. So I'm going to cut with the needle tool blade, and I'm not going to cut by cutting through, because then I'm guaranteed to make an uneven cut. I'm going to use the straight blade to just draw inward and then separate the jaw, because we want to fill it in with teeth down there too. There, open it up a little bit. So he looks very cartoony and pleasant right now because he doesn't have those jagged teeth. So I'm going to roll out a piece of clay, and I'm going to flatten it. So the way I make teeth is I flatten a little snake of clay, and then I cut a zigzag back and forth very carefully, because it's a small thin piece of clay. Just back and forth, back and forth. There we go. And I'm going to scratch and wet that into his mouth. I feel like I need to fix this a little bit. There we go. That's better. Okay. So it was just a little malformed here. So now it's a little more even. I'm going to scratch and wet the lower jaw. And then super carefully, I'm going to scratch and wet the bottom of the gums of these teeth. And then place them into the lower jaw. Pinch off what I don't need. I can't get in there with my fingers, so I'm going to use the pencil to help me line this up and get it in there better. Press it. I'm using the pencil to press the teeth down in. There we go. Because I can't get my finger in there. And now I'm going to scratch and wet the teeth in the top, under the upper jaw. Again, scratching and wetting this ever so carefully because it's a very thin piece of clay. Place it in the mouth. Cut off the extra. Press this to the upper jaw. Normally I would say pat down those rough edges, but because it's shark's teeth, I'm going to leave them rough. There we go. Okay, so now, like I was saying, we want our shark to have a menacing look. So I'm going to create kind of a nasty, mean eyebrow on each side here. There we go. And then use my pencil for eye sockets. Just wiggle it around in there. It looks like a character from Nemo. I don't know. Roll out some little tiny eyeballs. They have beady little eyes. Okay, those are not the same size. So I'm going to roll out one more and see which two match better. There we go. I've got two that match pretty nicely. Maybe made the eye sockets too big. I'm going to use my needle tool to scratch it a little bit, get some water in there, poke the eyeball, place it in, poke the next eyeball. Oops, put it in there. Come on, get in there. I don't want to touch it with my finger because I'm likely to squish it. So I'm going to see if I can. There we go. It's in there. He does look kind of rough and mean, doesn't he? Define that little line. Yikes. Okay, now it needs the dorsal fin. I'm just going to use my fingers to create a triangle and smooth out the ends. That'll work. Scratch and wet that on. Scratching and wetting is how I attach the clay. Okay. I've even done that a little bit with air dry clay, but I don't think it's like required. You can kind of smooth the clay together if you're using air dry clay. Then the pectoral fins. Roll it out to smooth it out. Shape it in my fingers to round it. That's a little big, I think. There we go. Roll it. Go back and forth and flatten it. One's bigger than the other, so I'm going to get rid of some of this clay. There we go. I'll scratch and wet them on. I like to look at it from the top, and then I'll look at it once I get them on from the front to make sure that they line up nicely. Score and slip each piece. Everything needs to be scored and slipped with earthenware clay, or you end up losing pieces. They separate in the kiln, or they separate when you're moving them from one place to another. And then there's these super tiny fins back here. So there's just happened to be a little scrap of clay on my board. I'll take it. It's a little freebie. That happens to be the right shape. There's nothing wrong with that. Scratch and wet it on. Scratch and wet that as well. Nice. Looking like a little clay shark. Okay, now, then the tail is very distinct. It's the top of the tail is much longer than the bottom of the tail. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of smoothing it and smearing it narrow. And I know this because I was walking along a beach in North Carolina and I saw a shark's tail on the beach. I'm going to cut it. And all I could think is, wow, why is there a shark's tail on the beach? Was it a bigger shark that chewed up this shark and left only the tail behind? I'm not sure. I just kept walking. All right, so I'm trying to define this. There we go. Curving that down a little bit more. Cool, got a little thin, like it was in a battle. I think I can fix that though. I'm going to score and slip a piece of clay right there to thicken that up again. That's the cool thing about clay. It's so forgiving. If you make a mistake, you just grab soft clay and rework it. There. All right. That's our shark. I hope you enjoyed it.